Thanks for tuning into Howe's Things, a podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library, recorded right here in Wellsville, New York. I'm excited because it's not Christmas, but my old friend Beau Hutchings is back with us. Beau, welcome back to Podcast Land.
Hey, girl, hey.
You want to go with that? We're going to stick.
Yes,
okay.
queen.
All right. Okay. All right. That's fine. This is your first non-Christmas appearance. So, that's been our number one complaint from fans. They're like, we want more Beau, but we can't listen to the Christmas episodes when it's not Christmas. They needed a year-round episode.
You only bring me out at Christmas and during Pride Month.
Yeah, well,
so.
I like my holidays.
I'm very festive, so I come around for the high holy holidays. This and Christmas and Gay Pride.
Just the two.
Just the two.
Okay, so not like if I called on a Halloween, that would be a no.
That could be pretty gay. That could be pretty.
Okay, so we
can make that one gay.
You consider it. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Get ready for the gay puns, by the way.
I was born.
And
ready.
I can say it because I'm queer.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I didn't want to make any assumptions.
Wow.
Boy. Well, I mean, all that lead up. I barely have to mention the fact that it's our Pride Month Book Club episode. We're going to be talking about Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a podcast special that we're doing, and also in person in the library. You can join us for a book club on the 22nd at 3:30. We're going to be talking about this book, and we do have some signups. It has been flying off the shelf, so I hope you'll join us for that. Before we get to the main segment, though, let's open up our books, see where the bookmarks are. So outside of Red, White, and Royal Blue, Beau, have you read anything interesting lately?
I read My Grandmother's Hands by Resma. I'm blanking on his last name. I should have been more prepared.
That's okay. It's only Christmas and Pride Month, so you're out of practice.
And I read that after the Christmas book, so between then and Pride.
Okay.
So the winter, end of winter, beginning of spring, and I read it as a part of our book club at my organization. We have an equity and diversity branch of our department, and we would meet every Friday and discuss it, and it was just fascinating. It's just talks about like how we pass along generational trauma through our bodies from way back when to now, and how it just has like affected Black bodies, white body, and police body. It's all it talks about the police body trauma too, which was very, very fascinating. And it was a great book club book, and to get into discussions about that topic was really important. So that was the last. It was a great read, and Resma he's just fantastic. So I highly recommend it for those who have not.
Can you say the title again?
My Grandmother's Hands.
My Grandmother's Hands. Okay. How often does this book club meet? Was it just a one-time thing, or is it an ongoing?
Well, we just met, like I said, the end of winter, beginning of spring. It was like every Friday, and we would cover 3 or 4 chapters.
Oh,
and,
okay. I've never actually done a book club like
bit.
that's like progressive. I've only done ones that were like, we've all read the book. Now let's talk about it.
Yeah, this organization is wonderful, and we deal with people who are trauma informed and building resilience in youth. So it's all very centered around that, and it was a great choice for us. And we had a lot of clinicians on the team with great insight on trauma and how you pass it, from your family on.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I would like to be involved in more book clubs. We just don't have anything scheduled as of yet.
Mm-hmm. The library system just last year started a diversity and equity committee, and we're doing like an every other month book club. And the first one was White Fragility, which was an interesting read, and the second one was The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which is fiction. And that was one of those books where it's like, while reading it, I wasn't particularly enjoying it just as like a piece of fiction. But then Sally Jacoby Murphy and I did a podcast episode about it, and then we did the system-wide book club, and we just talked about the book for hours and hours. So it was like retroactively, really a good experience reading it, but like it didn't come out just how in-depth and how thought-provoking it was until we were kind of like pulling at it in the book club. So it's interesting the way that happens.
Yeah, sometimes you step away from it and then you just mull over it. And and having the discussion brings things to light, which is
for sure
the best part about a book club. And I can't wait to get into this frothy little novel with you and see what comes
What a
up.
transition that was. I was just going to say I wish you would have come with something a little lighter, because the two books I was going to talk about are, the epitome of easy reads. So, I'm just going to do it, no judgment. I'm going to tell you some of the stupid things I've read recently. One, and this is disappointing because I didn't like it, but I read I Shouldn't Even Be Doing This and Other Things That Strike Me as Funny by Bob Newhart. Are you a Bob Newhart fan?
Sure, I watch the show every now and then.
Okay. Bob Newhart, I think, is hilarious. And, I've heard him on podcasts and, heard the albums and shows and everything. So funny. But what I learned in this book is that it must be like 90% delivery, because just a dry reading of his humor and, some of his bits written out was just like, this is... So it was a very boring read. So I felt really bad, reading a Bob Newhart thing so low. But I don't think it translated well.
Oh, well, you know what? I was going to say, I feel like he holds up in appearances,
Yeah.
but I don't know how he holds up on the page. So
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, if he did an audio read, do you think it would have
definitely
slapped a little bit better?
Yes, I think he could have sold it 100%. That's what I mean. It's like, without his voice and his delivery, though, it just doesn't have the same pizzazz. So
Maybe you just don't get it. Maybe you just don't have the pizzazz and the delivery.
Well, you've given me a lot to think about, and I'll reread it, and I'll circle back by Christmas.
Yes,
and I'll tell you
that.
The other thing I read, so I was traveling recently, and so I wanted something light for the plane. And one of my go-to cozy guilty pleasure kind of reads is the Murder, She Wrote series. I assume you watch Murder, She Wrote, the reruns every day.
Well, not every day, every other day.
Every other day.
But of course, I'm a fan of Murder She Done Sat Down and Wrote.
So
yes.
That's the full title. These books, I mean, there's like 60 of these books, and they've been going since the 80s. So, decades longer than the series ever went. This was book 51, The Murder of the 12, and then the author on this one was John Land. And it was like they all get snowed in at a big hotel, and there's a wedding that's supposed to happen there, and it becomes a very Agatha Christie sort of situation. A lot of And Then There Were None kind of references. Didn't work.
You know what I'm
Thumbs
kind
down.
of interested in?
Tell me.
And I'm sorry you did not enjoy that story, but I would be really interested in a Golden Girls Murder She Done Sat Down and She Wrote merge.
Yeah.
Kind of, what are they called when they would combine shows?
Like a mashup or a crossover? Yeah.
A crossover.
Yeah. Why didn't that happen?
I don't know. Because I was thinking about that episode in Golden Girls where they go to the I guess it's it's an old Victorian home, but it could be like a mansion. And there was a murder mystery dinner in the parlor. And I was like, oh, that would be so fun if, in walks, what's her name again?
Angela Lansbury? Jessica Fletcher?
Jessica Fletcher. Yeah. I was going to say Beverly.
I mean, that's a no-brainer though, because B. Arthur and Angela Lansbury, obviously lifelong friends because of Mame.
Bosom buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been fun. But so you don't recommend that story, but there's a whole series of them, right?
Lots of them are good. Yeah. I feel like most of them I've liked, but a few of them are stinkers, and this one I would put in the stinker category.
So when you read the book, are you imagining Angela Lansbury at every turn?
Of course. Yeah, you have to. You're required to.
So when you read Agatha Christie and you get into it's Ms. Marple,
yes,
is that the character?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you imagine playing Ms. Marple in a movie? And they probably have, right?
Oh, sure. Angela Lansbury's played Ms. Marple and things. Yeah. I'm not a huge Agatha Christie fan. I don't know. I love mysteries. I was in The Mousetrap on stage, and I liked that, but I don't particularly like her style. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on the podcast, but yeah. So I don't know. I don't have a perfect casting for Ms. Marple. Do you?
I was thinking about that Imelda from the Harry Potter series, Imelda Staunton or something like that. She plays the evil headmistress in the Harry Potter series, and she's a British actor.
Oh, okay. I can picture who you mean.
Yeah, she plays very sweet, but she can also get really wicked.
That. Yeah.
I don't know why I picture like a younger version of a Ms. Marple.
And you spend a lot of time fan casting Ms. Marple? Is that
only
a pandemic
on
hobby or weekends? Okay.
Yeah, it's a weekend hobby, a Friday night. Nothing gets crazier than a Friday night imagining an Agatha Christie remake.
I don't know how people stayed in touch with distant friends pre-podcasts. Like whenever I miss old friends, I just come up with a podcast to have them on, and then
that is truly the only time that we talk is on your podcast.
Yeah. So I have to keep doing it. It's the only way.
Well, I guess I better keep reading.
I guess so. Yeah, so I'm helping you. You're helping me. I'm helping you.
Help me
You
help
know,
you.
how long have we been friends? Have we worked out
Uh,
this number before?
oh man.
It's 20
So
plus years because I was in high school.
20 plus years?
Mm-hmm.
Just about
Yeah.
because I wasn't even driving age yet
Yeah.
when we did meet me in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going into eighth grade because I went to Alaska that summer. So what I
That's
was like
right.
I was probably 13 when we
Yeah.
met.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's so weird to say 20 plus years. I mean, I have friends that I grew up with that we've been friends for
Well, it's not a
30
competition,
plus
but
years, but
yeah.
no pressure.
Yeah.
Wow, to put a number on it really stings.
Yeah. I guess so. I didn't get
Look
you
at
anything.
look at us now.
I hope that wasn't a.
I showed up.
You did. Yeah, you're here.
I
You're
turned
here.
on Zoom for you
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I appreciate
on
it.
a
Okay.
work day.
What about you watching anything good? Movies, shows?
So I am really into HBO series. Do you have
Okay.
HBO?
We did. We're probably gonna get it back. We don't have it at the moment.
I feel like you gotta get it back. They
I know.
just do it. They
It's
do
so
it.
expensive. It's like
It
the most
is.
expensive of the streamers.
It is, and I honestly, I bought it because really was getting excited for the Sex and the City reboot.
Mm.
Hey, right?
Yeah,
Can
you're
you
really keeping
wait?
it on brand. Good for you.
Can you believe Sam? Can you believe Kim Cattrall though?
I mean, doesn't she hate Sarah Jessica Parker?
That's the T.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out the gay term, so that's the T.
Okay.
No
What does that
shade.
mean? I've never heard that one.
You never heard that?
No.
What's the T?
Yeah.
Oh my God, girl. So
I'm here to learn.
yeah, so it's like it came back from the day of like the I want to say like the ball culture in the 80s in New York, and
Okay.
they would do Vogue competitions and
Sure.
stuff, but they also had their own turns of phrase. So like drag performers or queer artists came up with like a whole vocabulary, and spill the tea would
Mhm.
mean give me the dirt,
I
give me the
see.
gossip.
Okay.
So what's the tea? What's the gossip?
Oh,
What's
I
the
get
dirt?
it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No tea meaning I'm not really like gossiping on you, but I kind of am. So
Right.
no
Okay.
tea, no shade.
Okay.
No
This
tea, no
is an
shade.
educational podcast,
It's Pride
and
Month, honey.
so well, thank you.
We
Yeah.
gotta broaden those horizons for
Okay. So
everybody.
that's the dirt. Do you think there's another reason why she's not doing it?
I don't know, contractual mumbo jumbo, but she's not coming back. So
Hmm.
anyway, I'm still interested to see how they're gonna pull it out. But that being said, my favorite show recently.
Oh, we're done with
was-
Sex and the City, though. We're moving past
Well, it hasn't
Sex
even
and the City.
started.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so I got HBO because I was excited about it, and
Yeah.
then realized they haven't even started filming it yet.
Mhm.
So
Do you know that I've read all the Sex and the City books?
really,
How about that? Yeah, I've read Sex and the City, which is like more. Have you read that?
No, like the original one by Candace Bushnell.
Yes, and it's not. I mean, that's not really a novel. That's more like short essays, sort of
Right.
about like life. Lipstick Jungle by Candace Bushnell is a real novel, and that was also a show for a while. I liked that one. And then there's 2 YA Carrie Bradshaw novels, which are a lot of fun. And then they made that CW show that nobody liked based on it.
based on Carrie Bradshaw.
So weirdly, I'm more familiar with the books than the actual shows because I've never seen the show.
It's they're fun, they're lighthearted. Do they hold up? No,
They don't. Okay, so like
No.
a revisit now would not.
it's fun to watch, but you cringe. I
Oh,
mean, like
okay.
where we've come, with what we present on TV, it's like I cannot believe that they got away with saying a lot of those things and just the stereotypes that they encounter.
Okay.
It's like if you watch any of our teen movies from the early 2000s,
Yeah.
like how often do they throw around like a gay slur
Sure.
and make like the gay character like a complete joke, and it's like very that with Sex and the City, which is
Yeah.
interesting because Michael Patrick King created it and he himself identifies as a gay man.
Okay.
So right, that's who created it, Michael Patrick King. I might be mixing up 2 people.
Is that
but
not Darren Star? I
Darren
guess?
Star?
Okay.
Yeah, but Michael Patrick King maybe show ran it or wrote
Okay.
some of it and directed a lot
Well,
of it.
I mean, speaking of Darren Star, I do a 90210 podcast with my friend Kendra, and that's so that's also like a big '90s, obviously primetime show. Versus Sex and the City was HBO always, right?
Yes, it
But
was.
90210, it's like whenever they try to tackle like an issue, we cringe because it's like, oh, they're not going to stick this landing at all. So those episodes were kind of like, this is a hard one to watch, So that's the perils, I think, of going back and revisiting that kind of thing.
And that was Darren Star?
Yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
he tackled all the hard issues.
yeah. Melrose Place,
Poorly.
Melrose Place Models Inc. The whole kit and caboodle.
So did you guys get through the whole series of
No, we
90210?
just finished season 4 out of 10. So
Nice.
we got a way to go.
out of 10.
Yeah.
but who's counting?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
90210, that would be a fun one to deep dive into again because I was obsessed with that as a kid.
Were
And
you really? How did I not know
yeah,
this? Oh,
before I went to bed every night, I just remember laying sideways and watching it all sideways,
yeah.
and I was obsessed with the Tori Spelling and Green,
Brian Austin Green, yeah.
Brian Austin Green
Donna David,
relationship.
classic.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what's really fun is that like I was the same way. I mean, I watched every episode when it was on, and like just know it all. Like it's just all in my head. Like I could just it's all in my head. Kendra has never seen a frame of it before we started the podcast, and so
Oh, that's fun.
that's like the gimmick. She just so she just made all her predictions for season 5 of 90210, and it's pretty fun because she's wrong.
Of course. How bizarre it must be to enter that show where we're at, like I said, nowadays, and watch it so fresh.
Yeah.
And I wonder, to watch it again, like must be so fun or well, to watch it for the first time, that must
Yeah.
be fun for her. But tonally, I just wonder what she thinks of it. I'm just so
She's
interested.
loving it. I mean, I was nervous
Yeah.
about it too because like I have all the built-in nostalgia for it. So her watching it for the first time, but she is all of the things that were huge in the 90s, you know, like the Dylan Brenda relationship and everything. She's just 100% on board for. So it's kind of fun.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I mean, listen, Beau, all the episodes are available. You can listen to it anytime you want.
Oh, your episodes of the
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah, yeah.
Can I listen to the episode and watch the episode on TV at the same time? Maybe mash them up.
Yeah, you could. Yep.
Oh, that'd be
Pause it
fun,
every
like
few minutes.
rolling
Yep.
commentary throughout
Yep.
the episode.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
that's a different show. You were talking about HBO before I took us down weird rabbit holes.
no, never weird.
Mhm.
But I am into like the more serious HBO shows now, and I
Okay.
just finished Mayor of Easttown. You've heard of that one?
You know, I have, and that's one of the reasons where I'm like, we got to get it back because it's what everybody's talking about, and so we haven't seen it.
It's fun. It's Kate Winslet, who just knocked my socks off. She was incredible. And she does that weird Philly accent that John Travolta tries in Hairspray the movie.
I love it.
But she nails it.
Yeah.
And Jean Smart plays her mother, and Jean Smart is obviously having quite the moment now.
Yes, seriously.
This is her time because she's
Yeah.
also in my other favorite new HBO show, Hacks,
Mhm.
where she plays like a Joan Rivers character.
That's
And
awesome.
they kind of match up the more like old school style comedy with a new writer from, you know, the
Yeah.
hipster kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
I don't know that Jean Smart ever really went out of style, but I sort of feel like it was Watchmen on HBO that kind of
Right.
brought her back, really, so like kind of a new crowd being like, let's get on this Jean Smart train.
Yeah, I mean, I remember her from the Brady Bunch movie too. Her little cameo where she was like, she was always hitting on Peter, the middle son.
Yes. Okay, I do remember that.
She wanted to bang the dad.
Hey,
Like,
yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Speaking of crossovers that should have happened, why was there never a Designing Women Golden Girls crossover?
I mean, that seems obvious too, right? Those were the two hot shows of the time.
You had to, yeah.
Yeah, that I was just telling a friend of mine about Designing Women. He did not grow up knowing about it, and it was strange trying to explain. I couldn't really. I knew that
Are they
Delta Burke.
Realtors? What do they do there?
Good question. I think they run a design business.
Oh, yeah,
right?
you're right. Okay, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. That makes sense with the title.
Not much more. There's an iconic moment from that show in like the gay canon, I'll say.
Okay.
And anytime you go to a gay bar, they'll play like music videos of Madonna, Lady Gaga, like the, you know, cliche kind of music that we might enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I am stereotyping, but then they'll play like iconic gay moments from pop culture. And one of them is Dixie Carter. And she's giving this big speech to this beauty queen who is mean to her sister, played by Delta Burke.
Yeah.
And she like shades or whatever. And Delta Burke has a bit of trauma from like growing up and being, you know, tormented by this beauty queen. And Dixie Carter just gives this big speech, and she is so deliberate with the way that she talks.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the night the lights went out in Georgia. And she says it just like that. And the whole like bar will just always recite it. And everybody's like, it's so fun. It's just so communal.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my friend about it, and it was like fun trying to get him like on board with it. But I couldn't even explain it myself very well, other than the nights went out in Georgia.
And that had like two waves because Delta Burke, like once she got fired from the show, was gone for like a year, and then they tried to spin her off like a year later. Did you know that?
No.
There's like a 1 season show where she plays like the governor's wife, and people were like, we don't want to watch this, and that was one and done.
Oh, poor Delta Burke.
I know.
I listened to a podcast. It's a celebrity memoir podcast by Chelsea Devantez. And that's how I read.
Yeah.
And she recaps like female celebrity
Okay.
memoirs, and she did a Delta Burke episode. And I love listening to her because I don't read celebrity memoirs, but obviously many of them are quite juicy.
Sure.
But I learned so much about just the backstory of these 90s icons like Delta Burke. I never would have, peeled behind the curtain, but she had, she just had lots of ups and downs. And that was a big one, of course, when she got fired. And, the yo-yo dieting of the 90s and everything. And just that horrible movement. So yay, body positivity.
Yeah, what a weird episode this is. I'm on board. I'm on board. I just didn't expect to be talking about designing women spinoffs.
What is this about again?
I'm always here for it. So
I told you I was going to make you gay by the end of this podcast.
You did. Was that a threat? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Your taste though is questionable.
Is it?
You've always had like your finger on the pulse.
I'm a man of the people,
Oh God. Where's your pride shirt?
HB. I mean, this is just one color.
Can you tell your listeners about my shirt?
Yes, it's a sleeveless white shirt with a rainbow that says "Be You," positive message.
Yeah, my mom got it for me, and it was like her step towards like a pride shirt, and I was like, I kind of wish it just said "Be Gay," but it says "Be You."
Be
so
you.
I mean, I guess we're inclusive. We want everyone to be themselves, but I wish it said "Be Gay."
Did we ever solve what you were trying to say about HBO? I don't know if we ever got there.
I'm watching Mare of Easttown and Hacks.
Okay.
I'm watching Jean Smart kill it on HBO.
Wherever she Jean Smarts. Did you ever see Samantha Who with Jean Smart and Christina Applegate? It was like a 2-season show. I loved it.
I love both of them.
I know, it's good. You should find it. It's a lot of fun. It was canceled too soon, definitely. I don't feel like I'm watching anything interesting at the moment. We're sort of like in between everything.
What did you just finish? I'm sure you just talked about it, but I wasn't.
I mean, I've sitcom wise, I watched all of Kim's Convenience over the course of like this year on Netflix.
What's that?
It's a show about a Korean family that runs a convenience store, and it's a Canadian import. It was sort of like on the heels of Schitt's Creek. Kim's Convenience kind of made a big splash, and cool. I loved it. It was so good, and then it ended sort of dramatically. So a little unsatisfying in the end, but still definitely worth it.
Is it coming back for season 2?
No, well, it was originally renewed for seasons 5 and 6, and then the creators were like, "Yeah, we don't want to do a season 6." So it kind of like it was already renewed, and they were just like, "Forget it." And so season 5 kind of ends, but it's not what you'd want as the finale of a long-running show like that.
For sure. Yeah. You're so invested at that point.
Yes.
And what else?
There's a Netflix show called Ragnarok, which is the second season just came out, and we just haven't got to it yet. Like, our nights have just been totally booked. So Ragnarok is sort of on the top of the list. It's where we're headed.
Is that like a spinoff of Fraggle Rock?
Yes. Yep. It's where the Fraggles come and they fight Norse gods, and it's the darker Muppets you always wanted.
The Muppets are plenty dark.
That's true. Have you ever seen The Dark Crystal?
Yes, I actually did watch that. I think last year.
That'll give you nightmares.
Well, I love Labyrinth, right?
Yeah.
And that's Oz, Frank Oz, and Jim Henson. Mm-hmm. And then I felt like I had to get into this because they just relaunched or rebooted kind of the Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal, and I wanted to.
That show is rough.
It's so bizarre.
It is.
I cannot believe we watched that stuff as kids.
I know.
That is dark.
At the risk of continuing to plug old podcast episodes, I interviewed Mike Quinn, who was a puppeteer with Henson, and he was in Return of the Jedi as Nine Numb, but he worked on Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. We talked about it a bit. It's just a fascinating world. The whole like Henson of the 80s is just its own thing.
I bet that puppet circuit was bizarre.
I think it was.
Can you imagine so what gig you got after this?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing kids shows until something picks up. So interesting.
Mike made his own puppets and just hung around the Henson Studios, and finally Jim Henson was just like, "Fine, we're doing the Great Muppet Caper. Come on, you're in." And
And I
they
haven't
just
really
continue
thought of
on from there.
puppets since Avenue Q
Oh,
was
right.
so big in
Yeah. Yeah.
2001 or 2002 to 4 or something. I
Hmm.
can't remember, but I feel like that was when I was like, oh yeah, puppets.
They brought it back. They brought it back.
Yeah, because they
Puppets.
went away for a
Hmm.
while.
They did.
And then they
All
went
right.
away again. What do we
Yeah.
what puppets do we have? I mean, I guess we're
I
bringing
don't
back
know.
Dark
I
Crystal.
mean, the Muppets haven't done well since Disney bought the Muppets, so we haven't seen a lot.
Sesame Street's still going.
True, going strong on HBO now. What do you know?
Hmm. My
So,
friend Suki Lopez is on it. She
really?
plays Nina.
Okay.
Yep. And she and I did West Side Story national tour together, and she got right off of that, auditioned for Sesame Street, booked it, and has been the face of, I don't know, adults in
Wow.
Sesame Street since then, and she's killing it. Yeah.
So can she hook you up? Can you be on Sesame Street?
I don't think I'm tall enough for Big Bird.
No, not quite.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
quite.
more of an Elmo, but I don't know that I can sit under a table for that long. So we'll have to figure out something right for
Yeah.
me.
Okay, well keep me posted. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
maybe I'll do craft services.
Again, what a meandering journey that was.
Well, I never get to talk to you.
I
We have,
know.
we have a lot to catch up on.
I know, just random Facebook messages. I feel like most of the time just snarky one-liners on Facebook.
Do you have my phone
So-
number? Do you have a phone?
I have a rotary phone. Yeah, I do. Yep, it's in the kitchen wall. We each get some time for
Man,
the day.
texting on that must take forever.
It is time consuming, but ultimately I have to think more about the jokes. So I think they're stronger.
It's always good when you think hard about a joke.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. All right. Well, how about some book news? How does that sound to you?
Yes.
Look into the future to see what it proves. It's time for book news.
All right. Let's look at the
Yes,
New York
and.
Times bestseller list. All right. So
I'm excited to hear if a book that I want to read is on it, so go.
well, let's do it. Okay. This is the combined print and ebook fiction. So number 10 on the list, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Nora Seed finds a library beyond the edge of the universe that contains books with multiple possibilities of the lives one could have lived. What do you think? 28 weeks on the bestseller list.
Well, it must be it must be great.
Yeah, apparently.
28 weeks, that's a long time.
I don't know. There's a lot of these books that I feel like are just geared towards like librarians and people who buy books for libraries.
I was going to say, that's a little on the nose.
It is. It really, maybe a little too much. Number 9, I'm very on the fence about whether or not I want to read this or not. 6 weeks on the list, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Ryland Grace awakes from a long sleep alone and far from home, and the fate of humanity rests on his shoulders. Did you see or read The Martian?
I heard that name.
Matt Damon, Ridley Scott, the movie.
Right, yep, I've heard of it.
Okay.
Didn't see it.
So the book is great. The book is so funny, and it's like takes some hard science, but it still manages to be just a hilarious and engaging read. The movie is such a close adaptation of it that I was bored to tears watching the movie because there's no changes. So The Martians, one of the better books I've read in recent years. His follow-up was called Artemis, I think, and it was like a heist on the moon. One of the worst books I've read in recent years. So I don't know. The jury's still out on Project Hail Mary.
Ridley Scott, that's the author?
Ridley Scott is a director. He directed the movie version of it.
Right. What year did that come out, The Martian?
I was 5 years ago, maybe.
Is Matt Damon still making movies?
Yeah, I think he is. Yep,
Good for him.
he's doing a couple every now and then.
Good for him.
I try not to judge, but I think this is such a stupid thing. 2 weeks on the list, Freed by E.L. James. The final chapter of the 50 Shades, as told by Christian Trilogy, delves into the wedding between Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele. So, of course, 50 Shades of Grey, that series, you must be familiar with that, just from living in the world.
Of course.
This is the kind of book that sells ebooks-wise. This is why we got it on this list, because people like to get their erotica on ebooks so they don't have to ask their friendly librarian or bookstore for it. But all this is they took the 50 Shades of Grey books and told them from his perspective instead of hers, and just sold the same story again. And it's working. It's working. Yeah.
I don't know that I care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. They did the same thing with Twilight. They told it from his perspective, and then they also did a gender swap Twilight as well.
Is that clever storytelling, clever writing, or?
It's clever marketing,
I feel like, just pump out more content.
Yeah.
Is J.K. Rowling going to do that from the perspective of the owl?
In Harry Potter, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't read Harry Potter, did you?
Bold move bringing up J.K. Rowling in this episode. I
Well, I
did.
made a joke of J.K. Rowling
Okay,
by saying the
at her
owl because
expense.
that is
Okay.
ridiculous, and she would do something that stupid.
You're right. I did read Harry Potter. Yeah, I did.
Oh, really? That surprises me. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, you're right. I wasn't allowed. Like when they first came out, it was like that's witchcraft. But I did. I did eventually read them all.
So how's your witchcraft going?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I'm deep into it at this point. No turning back. Number 7, 7 weeks on the list. Sully by John Grisham. I read this book. I don't think it works. That's my hot take. Doesn't work. Samuel Suleiman receives a basketball scholarship to North Carolina Central and determines to bring his family over from a Civil War-ravaged South Sudan.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is, and I think the thing is, like, it doesn't really get deep enough into it. It feels a little, I don't know, it felt a little, like, exploitative to me to have that be the backdrop of this, like, basketball story. I feel like if you're gonna if you're gonna do that, I feel like you gotta, like, really do it, you know, and I don't feel like he did.
They took light of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Or made light of it, yeah.
Number 6, 134 weeks on the list. So this is, you might be the last person on the planet who hasn't read this book. Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. In a quiet town on the North Carolina coast in 1969, a young woman who survived alone in the marsh becomes a murder suspect. This is 134 weeks. So we're going on like 3 years. This has been on the bestseller list.
Give me 2 more weeks.
And then you're going to do it?
And I'll think about starting it.
I'll circle back. Malibu Rising. What do you think of that title?
Sounds delicious.
Okay. By Taylor Jenkins Reid. 4 famous siblings throw an epic party to celebrate the end of summer, but over the course of 24 hours, their lives will change forever.
Who did they kill?
I don't know. Are you intrigued by this?
The babysitter?
Maybe.
Oh, don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead. That just turned 30, BT dubs.
Did it? That's older than our friendship. Not by much, but it is. This one I don't particularly want to read, but her last book was called Daisy Jones and the Six. Then it was told like a biography of this epic band, and I loved it. I devoured it. So maybe I'll
Yeah, give it a shot.
Number 4, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Hannah Hall discovers truths about her missing husband and bonds with his daughter from a previous relationship. This looks like a Reese Witherspoon book club. How do you feel about Reese Witherspoon? Do you read what she reads?
I love Reese Witherspoon. I love that she's a producer, and I loved Big Little Lies, also HBO. I think she's a phenomenal actress. She always nails her type in that part. Do I care about what she's reading? Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. That probably is actually my kind of genre.
Okay. Twist ending there. I thought you were setting me up for some snark.
I honestly was gonna be sarcastic, and I was like, you know what? I'm honestly pretty basic.
All right. Well, let me tell you again. The title is The Last Thing He Told Me. All right.
And that's the last thing he told me.
The last thing. Number 3, new this week. First time on the list. Tom Clancy, Target acquired by Don Bentley. Tom Clancy's dead, but his books live on. This one's written by Don Bentley. A cushy assignment to help the CIA puts Jack Ryan Jr. in the sights of trained killers.
Wait, Jack Ryan. That sounds familiar.
Jr.
Jack Ryan Jr. Got it. Thank you.
Jack Ryan, I mean, that's a Tom Clancy character from way back, like Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, Hunt for Red October.
That's it. It also sounds like any basic John Smith.
True. Yeah. It does. I'm not making this up. This is real. Number 2 on the list, Golden Girl.
That's our book.
Please be about Rue McClanahan. Let me see. No. By Ellen Hildebrand, a Nantucket novelist gets one final summer to watch what happens from the great beyond. I don't like that kind of book.
I stopped listening.
He's like a ghost, I guess.
Oh,
he or she is a ghost looking back at what happens in a summer. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Number 1, new this week. Oh boy. The President's Daughter by Bill Clinton. Do you remember Bill Clinton?
I've heard of him.
He was the former president.
Yeah.
By Bill Clinton and James Patterson. Matthew Keating, a past president and former Navy SEAL, goes on his own to find his abducted teenage daughter.
Wait, is this actually Bill Clinton?
It is. And this is the second book in the series he and James Patterson have worked on together.
Oh, he's writing books now?
He is. Yeah. Fiction. Fiction. A little bit of trivia.
Him.
Jimmy Carter was the only president to ever write a work of fiction until this James Patterson, Bill Clinton crossover.
And he stopped there? He just wrote one?
He just wrote one. And people were like, stop. So. So he continued to write coffee table books that people give as gifts.
Well, spoiler alert.
Do you have it? Do you have the latest Jimmy
Yeah.
Carter book? Wow.
I'm going to present it to
Okay.
you at
He's
the end of
just
the podcast.
He was just a simple peanut farmer, and that's the magic of that story.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the main event?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Well, no, I gotta go.
Oh.
That's all I'm giving you.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
Let's do
I've been
it.
dying to talk about this.
All right. So, our topic at hand, which you probably thought we were never going to get to it, but here we are. It is the novel Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Sexy new book club.
I'll give you like my final impression.
Okay.
It surprised me.
Okay. I feel like you could cut out the last 150 pages and be just fine.
Wow.
What do you think?
Because how long is it?
My print copy was like 450 or something like that. By the way, every time we've done a Christmas book club, I've had
I
to
know.
read short books, and this was this was a journey.
Okay, so I'm not an avid reader. I don't read regularly, obviously. I
Okay.
read when I have to,
All right.
like a book club or not a book club. If there's a topic I'm really interested in, I will read. And I read White Fragility last year, and I chose to, and I will continue to do that work and keep reading. But these, I don't read for fun as much as I should.
Okay.
And this felt like reading for fun. It felt like I was semi-forced to with a deadline, which I like. But I also started very late, as you know, and I was getting a little anxious. And you were suggesting the audio version,
Which
I
I
could listen to
did
it on the
half and
go.
half. Like I read a bunch of it and I listened to a bunch of
Interesting.
it.
but I really wanted to devour it because let me tell you something. I've never read a romance novel. And I wanted to form the opinion in my head. I
Okay.
wanted to hear the voices in my head. I wanted
Okay.
to hear the noises and the lip smacking on my own. I wanted to like really imagine it, and I felt some things.
Okay. The book was the romance pick in the Goodreads Choice Awards in 2019 when it came out. It has stellar reviews and was pretty widely held in our library system. So this is honestly, I feel like it has gained more popularity than fiction like this typically does. And I don't know why this one in particular was the one that sort of like had crossover appeal, but it has.
Well, do you think the
does.
pandemic has anything to do with it?
No, because it came out in 2019.
No, but do you think that you said it's gained popularity?
Oh, it
but
has.
like
Yeah,
because of everybody was locked in their homes and wanted escapism.
it's
I don't
possible.
know.
Yeah. All right, let me give you the publisher summary here. Okay, you ready? Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. First son, Alex Claremont Diaz, is the closest thing to a prince this side of the Atlantic. With his intrepid sister and the Veep's genius granddaughter, they're the White House Trio, a beautiful millennial marketing strategy for his mother, President Ellen Claremont. International socialite duties do have downsides, namely, when photos of a confrontation with his longtime nemesis, Prince Henry, at a royal wedding leaks to the tabloids and threaten American-British relations, the plan for damage control, staging a fake friendship between the first son and the prince. As President Claremont kicks off her re-election bid, Alex finds himself hurtling into a secret relationship with Henry that could derail the campaign and upend two nations. What is worth the sacrifice? How do you tell all the good you can do? And most importantly, how will history remember you? That's the publisher synopsis. Would you have read the book based on that information?
I like the idea of the romance across the pond.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually would have been really interested in this. I have a friend in New York that was reading it last year during the pandemic. And I feel like it was in November he told me he was reading it. So then when you mentioned the title, I was like, I feel like I've heard this. And he was telling me about it then, and it sounded interesting to me. And like I said, I don't read regularly, but I like the idea of a gay romance from across the pond where it's like the Romeo and Juliet of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into the plot a little bit. So I mean, this kind of sets it up a little bit. You're focusing sort of the younger generation. The president is never really like a primary character, but she pops in, and the parents are divorced. So her ex-husband is he's a senator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit, not friction, but it's sort of like, you've got the divorced parents over here. And then in London, I don't think you get a ton of characterization from the royal family. An older brother, right? I mean, that you get a little bit more of.
Yeah, Prince Philip. I wouldn't even say. I mean, they flesh out Bee pretty well.
That's
his
true.
sister.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
they also give a great. I feel like they gave a great description of his father,
Okay.
but it definitely focuses on Alex and
Yeah.
his family.
Yeah. Okay.
We start in DC with Alex Claremont Diaz, and he's traveling to London for an appearance with his sister. His sister's name is Jillian. I literally just finished the book yesterday.
Well, Nora is not his sister, right? Nora is the Veep's granddaughter.
Yes,
right?
and that took me I don't know how long to figure out who she was. And I
Yeah.
was like, I kept thinking of Nora as his sister, and then he kept referring to her as not a sister. And I said, well, who the hell is she? And I think I missed that part about
No, that was a little confusing. There was a lot of things with
Okay.
characters sometimes where I was like, wait. I feel like some of the establishing, like I don't think a ton of time was spent establishing the supporting cast, and you're just kind of thrown in. So I think when you have Nora and June is the sister's name, playing
Thank
a
you.
pretty similar role, it was kind of hard to keep track in my head.
Right, and it felt very brother sister with both of them.
It did,
So,
yeah.
but he did. Alex, the character, references quite a bit Nora not being part of the family, and then I
Right.
kind of thought, like, well, is she like, the stepchild? I was like, why are they being so mean to her?
Right.
But they kept saying that the parents favor her, so it was very confusing, that relationship. So I thought I missed a detail. So I'm really happy to hear it, because that was honestly going to be my first question, Nick, when we started this book, was who is Nora?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's like she got a lot of play and was in most of the scenes, but I feel like if you would have snipped that character out of the book, I don't know what much would have changed,
Well, except for the fact that she kind of turns a lot of the action at the end. Don't you
true.
think?
No, you're right. Yeah, that's the end is where I got impatient.
But
so
that could
I
have
think you're
been,
right.
honestly, that could have been one of the interns that did that. I don't
Mhm.
think it necessarily had to be Nora.
That's true.
So yeah, we're both a little right.
Hmm. Oh, there you go.
So there's that.
Hmm.
So yes, they're traveling to London for Philip's wedding. Philip is the Prince of England, and Alex has a very, very fraught relationship with the younger brother of Philip, Prince Henry or Harry.
Henry's the main character.
Yeah. Harry is our actual
The real
of
prince.
England,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a coincidence? Because that was a bit confusing too.
No, I think.
Did we have to pick so close?
Well, I also thought using Philip was kind of confusing. When that's
that's an
there is
actual
a
royal
Prince
name.
Philip. So it's just a little, or there was. I mean, I guess there still is in our hearts. But
Yes.
I thought that was kind of a confusing choice. So how quickly do we get into that? Do they have an initial confrontation that sets it off, but nothing romantic has happened at that point. The initial like running into each other and like slamming into a cake, right? Isn't that what happens?
Yeah, they have an altercation. They end up falling into the cake, and then there's this big what is it? Tabloid paparazzi
Yeah.
extravaganza where it's all of a sudden they ruin the royal wedding because of this huge feud. They hate each other.
Right.
So that's what we're led to believe, is that they just can't stand each other, and every time they meet, it's a big disaster.
And that's, I mean, it's kind of presented like that's a little true, right? Like they don't like each other, right?
Right.
Isn't that kind of the initial?
They had met, I guess, at some Olympics back prior, and Alex presented himself very annoying as like, the loudmouth American,
Right.
and Prince Henry was a little haughty. However, we do learn that Alex has been keeping kind of like old Tiger Beat magazine
Yes.
clippings of Henry, so there was a bit of an attraction. So it's that old like push and pull, like
Mhm.
I'm going to be nasty to you. I'm going to be a bully to you because I actually secretly fantasize about you.
Right. But even that sort of seems like it's a bit of a surprise to Alex once we get into it. But I guess I guess we're jumping ahead a little bit. So after the initial confrontation, they go on this like offensive of, okay, we have to make these two seems like they were just buddies joking around. Otherwise, what? The stakes of that were never made perfectly clear to me.
Well, it's an echelon that we'll never understand, Nick.
I see.
We don't know what royal families have to go through to keep
Right.
up appearances. And that honestly is So I love escapism, and I love, that whole idea of peeking behind the curtain and seeing how the other half lives. But it was kind of hard to relate to a lot of their
It
issues,
was.
and I was like, I don't feel that bad for you
No, I
guys
know.
in a lot of
I know.
instances,
Well,
and
I
that
guess they
they're
just
their
didn't.
privileged lifestyles.
This, like, the more I read of it, the more it did sort of feel like a paperback romance, in not a great way,
Interesting.
And I feel like having that, it's such a stretch that, like, this is the thing that's going to make this plot go, felt a little lazy to me, writing wise. Like, you couldn't come up with a better reason for them to have to, like, spend time together, because honestly, if, like, one of the Obama kids hated Prince Harry, would anyone have cared? You know what I mean? Like,
Great, we'll keep you guys separate.
right. I just don't think, like, this is not an international incident. And it's also, like, America and England. Like, these are pretty good allies. You know what I mean? Like, it's
The
not a
author
tenuous political situation.
the author is positing this world where we are very, very fraught in our relationship with England, and
Right.
that we must do everything possible to keep us
Yeah,
together. When it's really
otherwise-
like, we're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Like, yeah, they are creating this alternate universe where this is a regular occurrence, where you have a falling out with a royal family member. So now we have to fly you to London and create these great events where we're gonna have photographers on hand to photograph you shaking hands and getting along and becoming pals again.
Mm-hmm.
As if anybody cares.
Right. So they start sort of staging events where they're going to be together and they're going to hang out. And it's pretty early where we get a little movement between the two of them, right?
I'd say the moment that we really sense something is the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars in the children's hospital.
Yes. Yeah.
So they go, because there's a lot of philanthropy that Prince. I'm going to do this all the time. I'm going to pause every time I say it. Prince Henry, because I want to say Harry.
Yeah.
I was honestly picturing Prince Harry the whole time. I was like, wait, are we really talking about
I think
the
you're
Prince
supposed
of England?
to. Yeah. I think you're definitely supposed to.
So they go to do an appearance at which sounds terrible, but we're gonna make you guys look good at the children's hospital. But Prince Henry,
You did it.
really, it does have a relationship with this hospital and is going to visit children there. And he has a really lovely interaction with a young child who is obsessed with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're rattling off like, well, which movie's better?
Mm-hmm.
And it's for Henry, it is Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the little girl or if eventually Alex comes into the conversation and says that it's Empire Strikes Back. So then there's that rivalry of which one's better, which one's more pinnacle in the Star Wars canon.
Yeah.
And so that's the first time we see Alex be like, oh, you like American culture? Maybe I'll listen to you. It's very strange.
It is.
But that's how they connect, is Star Wars and the Children's Hospital.
Yeah. Did you get impatient for any romance to start?
I liked the buildup because, I could see where it was going, and I was curious to see how we were going to get there. So I started to feel a little excited because I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of them connecting on that Star Wars relationship. So I was getting a little bit excited.
It felt real.
Yes. And then it was very soon after that kind of this was the strange part. So then all of a sudden there's a possible shooting in the children's hospital.
Right. Yeah.
So the security guard throws Alex and Prince Henry into a supply closet, and they're stuck in there, and their bodies are pressed together.
Have to be.
I picture them laying on the ground shoulder to shoulder, but I almost wish they were like laying on top of each other.
Yeah.
But it was feeling their ribs pressed into each other, that they were wrestling almost. They were like, get away from me, get away from me. No, you get away from me. No, you get away from me. So they're like pressing against each other, and you can feel it there. And they're stuck in that closet for a long time. And it ends up that it was just somebody with firecrackers, bringing firecrackers in the children's hospital.
The children's hospital. Yeah, good times.
So it was really, that's the first physical moment where we feel that they got excited about the connection of Star Wars, and then they didn't mind their ribs pressed against each other.
Right. But that's only surprising to Alex, right?
But we don't know. We don't see Henry's point of view very often.
Okay, all right.
We're in. Alex is our storyteller.
Yes.
He's narrating it, and it is surprising to him. Yes.
So we have a series of these events, and I'm trying to remember like the next big. And this is the thing. It's like nothing that I feel like is really happening with the other characters doesn't super matter. You know what I mean? Like what's going on with Nora and June is not super relevant. There's kind of an overarching thing where the president, Ellen Claremont, is up for re-election and could potentially lose. So I think that explains a little bit of why everybody's so heightened about anything being even remotely embarrassing. And I do think you sort of get the impression that people have kind of, have a little hero worship with the White House trio, of Alex, Nora, and June. So maybe there's a little bit more focus than there normally would be on the three of them and everything that's going on. And there's this sort of like, the young cool kids from, the royal family and like the White House are
don't embarrass us.
Getting it off.
This is an important year. Yeah. You have to their stakes are high in the sense that they need to keep up appearances and they can't do anything wrong, right? Because this is a pivotal time. That nothing really sexual happens in that trip to England.
No, not this time.
But they get each other's phone numbers, and this is when they start texting.
Yes, and the text is definitely a big leap forward relationship-wise.
Right. And it's also that trope in a book where you have text message back and forth on 3 pages, thank God, cross those pages off, and we're moving forward. It's quick reads.
And so their correspondence, I mean, it's definitely flirtatious, but still reserved at this point.
Yeah, it's that jabby kind of like winky. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he keeps his name in his phone as Prince Dickhead,
right,
or something like that, and it stays like that forever. Which is
so
honey,
charming.
Oh Dickhead, yeah, so charming, so haughty.
So when are we next together? What's the next thing? You know what? I'm going to call it out right now that I feel like, especially as it progresses, in what world is like the crown prince of England and the president's son just like gallivanting like all over the world by themselves, going places like crazy? No way.
Oh, well, when you have a gay first son and a gay prince, anything can happen.
Anything can and will happen.
The next time we're together, I think, is New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we get some sparks here.
This is where it happened. So I feel like there might have been another meeting, but I don't want to talk about it. I want to get to the good stuff.
I think we should, yeah.
So they get sloshed and they're starting to enjoy each other's company a lot more. They finally found their rhythm. We get to introduce June and Nora to the prince, and they obviously have a very fond relationship. So everything's just going along swimmingly. And I think that the countdown happens and everyone's cheering, hooray, 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 Henry's gone. Where's Henry? He has snuck away to the garden, and it's some well-known garden in the White House. I don't know my White House geography as well as I should, but Alex finds himself out there underneath the moonlight, underneath a gorgeous tree, and Henry comes in with a big ol' kiss.
Yes,
and
we get the kiss.
Really pushes it on. It could be alcohol induced.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. Maybe he's just drunk.
But what does Alex do? He presses back in. There's something there. There's sparks.
And this is a pretty big turning point for Alex because this is his first experience.
It's not his first gay experience.
Oh, no. It's not?
No, Liam is his first encounter from high school in Austin, Texas.
You're right. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I remember now. Okay.
So Liam was probably scorned because it's not very soon after this kiss that Alex is like, I'm bisexual. Yeah. Like he's just like, there's no, he does not fight it. He does not struggle. He's like, yes, I'm bisexual.
All of the pieces just fall into place. The Tiger Beat magazines, Liam, kiss. He's like,
yeah, I did keep your picture in my sock drawer. So there's that whole, that comes just falling out. Yeah, the purse falls right out of his mouth the second he gets that kiss. There's really no struggle. There's no internal struggle with I don't know. It's like, yes, I'm bisexual and I'm into this. Because then he pretty much he pretty much tells his sister right away. It's like there's no struggle. The struggle is probably with letting the whole country know.
Right.
They want to keep that hush hush. So now it's kind of like, okay.
And I mean that seems lame to me. Like what did you think of that?
To hide that?
No. I mean just that it was just that. That it was just like one kiss and he's like, okay, I'm ready.
I mean, yeah, considering that could be the story. I mean, there could be that internal struggle. That would be a really interesting, compelling way to tell it. But there's also that argument, and I want to kind of pose this, is that there's a lot of representation in media with like having a gay story being about somebody coming out, about having a struggle.
Yeah.
And there's like, yeah, that is a story and that is an important story to tell, but that's not the only gay story to tell.
Right.
Sometimes we should cut that bullshit. Be like, let's get into it. Let's like really get into the relationship. Let's get into the meat. Let's cut. Yeah, we know that's going to be hard for, I think the kid's 22. I think Alex is 22.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for a 22-year-old to reconcile their sexual preference, but sure, maybe he's fine with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. And I think let's just tell a different gay story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just felt like there's several times in the book where like an absence of struggle, I feel like just makes for a less compelling story there. Like it's not that I needed him to have some sort of anguish over this. It's just it is a big moment, and so for the story not to really address that, like maybe don't have that be a thing at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it was weird that he didn't know and then just suddenly knew. It could have just been that he knew. Like, if you didn't want to get into it, just have it so he knows, you know?
Right. Yeah, that was a bit confusing. The relationship to his sexuality was a bit like, well, let us know right away, because we were with him from the start. So maybe give us a clue here or there. Talk about Liam earlier. So I don't know. So we knew.
It just didn't seem like a necessary element to the story when you, especially, like you said, I mean, that is the premise of this book. So everybody knows, you know? Anyway. But yeah, so he's pretty much like, yes, okay, let's go forward. But he still doesn't really, just because they had one sloppy kiss, you know, like he doesn't really know that Henry's into him or anything like that. It is still kind of a question mark. And they are still sort of forced in this awkward situation of having to be like pretend friends who are now sort of real friends. And now there's sort of this like layer of mystery about.
But now there's a little bit of excitement of like, when do we get to do appearances again? I want to make out.
Right.
Of course, they can't stop thinking about each other. But I can't remember if they're texting that much between. I want to say the next time they interact is like kind of in person. It's not really like, I enjoyed that. Oh, I enjoyed that too. I think the next time they talk about it is actually in person.
Yes.
Because then eventually we get into emails too. And the emails are introduced in an interesting way later. You don't love it. Speaking of Sex and the City, it is so Sex and the City when they start, I don't want to say like plagiarizing love stories from other people, but they pick a very fantastic quote from either it's mostly queer fictional characters, and they recite it to each other via email, and that's very Sex and the City movie 1 when Big does that with Carrie when he writes like Thoreau and like all these like authors, and I was just like, all right. But the emails come a little bit later. So we left off at the kiss, and then from there we have then we started introducing like a lot of the politics of it, and we meet Luna, who is he's a cabinet member for Ellen. He's gay. And he's a big role model to Alex.
Yeah.
He works very close with Alex's father, and just the whole Democratic campaign.
Yeah. So movement on the characters, like there's still a little tentative awkwardness. I feel like when it is finally addressed, but I don't remember if Henry tries to play it off or if he's open about it.
He disappears.
Right, he kind of ghosts him for a while.
He kisses him and he disappears. So it's not clear that while Henry instigated, it's not clear if that was planned or if he was embarrassed by it. We don't know how he feels about it. But we know how Alex feels about it, and he's stoked.
He's very excited, yeah. Yeah, he is. And so it sort of continues on that way, and I feel like there's a middle chunk of the book where we're dancing around the relationship and then like rolling into the relationship that I felt a little like, okay, let's speed it up.
I got jet lag.
Yeah.
Because they are traveling across this world.
Yeah.
Like it's no big deal. Like, it's just another weekend. I'm like, now we're in London. Now we're in California. Now we're in Texas. We're in Houston. We're in Austin. We're in Brooklyn. We're everywhere. And I'm like, how? And then they talk about like, I'm tired. Every now and then, I'm tired. I'm like, I'm exhausted. Just watching you fools gallivant around living this fantastic
That's
life.
what I'm saying, though. Like, no way. Like,
And then the other part
those
is like,
two have that kind
so
of freedom of movement.
yeah, and they're never taking PJs. They're never taking private jets.
Uh-huh.
They're always doing it like in some kind of way that there's no paper trail.
Right.
Because they've got to be smart about this too, because we don't want the world to know. And the fact that like in
Yeah.
New York or something, when he comes to like Alex, Henry surprises him and brings their friend Pez, who's a fun little character, and they surprise them in New York and they have this crazy night out and they go to this hotel. And I'm like, how is no one seeing the Prince of England and the first son?
That's what I mean. It's like this, like there's no security, you know, there's no like detail assigning like exactly where everybody is at any given
It would
moment.
never
like,
happen.
No, it's like the president's son and the prince just like roll into like a Holiday Inn, you know. They're like, we'll have a couple of adjoining rooms if you don't mind.
And they're like, "Who are you?"
Yeah,
it's
and
like
that's it.
like no one recognizes these people. They're at a gay bar and they're like having this awesome night out where they're doing karaoke and wearing kimonos and making out basically, and like not everybody has their cell phone out, being like,
I know.
like, are you kidding? Like, hey, yeah, we're gay.
Yeah.
Everybody's gay here. Like, no cameras.
Right.
Without it.
Yeah, but see, that's what I mean about theirs. I feel like there's some sloppiness in the writing because
Yes.
there is certainly a way to do this, but it's like once the steps of the relationship happen and they're both just like in it, it's just kind of a free for all. You know what I mean? There's no more. I mean, there's subterfuge. They're saying, "Oh, we have to sneak, we have to pretend," but they aren't.
Not that
actually.
hard.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm wondering if the security detail they do have, like they both have like a bodyguard basically that plays a big role. And I'm wondering like how much damage control are they doing on the back end?
Yeah.
Like I talk about not sleeping. They must be up all night trying to clean up this
I
mess.
know they're going around
hairless
collecting
kids
cell phones, they got, like,
killing
an
people.
EMP.
Burying bodies. It's like they must be really cleaning
That's
up.
the book I want to read. I want to I want to read about the guys going to the nightclubs being like, all right.
The damage control, paying people off,
Yeah.
stealing security footage. My God.
Yep. So what happens to take us from the awkward like drunken kiss to like full on relationship? It's the emails, it's the traveling, but then I don't remember like how we get to the next step, like when they spend the night together for the first time.
I can't remember if it happens in England or if it happens in New York, where they.
Well, it's a hotel, so I think it's probably New York.
Right. Yeah. Then they are in the hotel overnight after that drunken night in New York, and then he has Alex has a very quick appearance the next morning where his assistant finds Henry in the closet.
Right. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that was a big surprise and it's a big reveal for her. I was like, how did she not know?
I know. Yeah.
I was like, not even that. Now who's cleaning up after her?
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's true. Because I remember that moment too, and I thought she was going to be like, "Oh, good, you guys finally got together." But no, she's like, "What?"
She just does not want to see it.
So I just don't. Yeah.
Now, what do you think about? So, like, do you remember at all kind of the detail of like the graphicness, the graphic storytelling? Do you?
Yeah, and actually, I was struck by. I felt like the love scenes were pretty graphic and were like very specific. And at first, I was like, "Boy, that's really." I mean, that's, that it's graphic, but I sort of feel like it's not. I think I've read that kind of scene a million times, just like with a man and a woman, and I don't even think about it. I don't think I've read anything like even remotely like that. And so I couldn't tell if it was particularly graphic or if I'm just sort of like desensitized to reading a scene like that between a man and a woman. What did you think?
I felt like it was, and that's when I think I messaged you last night before we met, and I was kind of like, I had a hard time finding out who this was for.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
no,
I
I
felt
think
like
that's a really valid criticism.
And I wanted to be like, give it, like, get a little into it. Like,
yeah.
There was not a lot of like ecstasy behind it. And I was kind of like, I thought the descriptions of it were tame. And I was trying to wonder, like, are they trying to keep it a little bit tame for maybe a younger audience? I don't know, but I feel like it could have been more hardcore, man.
Well, and I think we were talking about 50 Shades of Grey earlier. I mean, that's like, legendary for that.
Maybe that's what I was expecting. I don't know. Cause like I said, I've never read a romance novel. So I was expecting like some carnal stuff in there. And you said you did feel a little intense.
Yeah. I guess I just hadn't really been exposed in print to that, I think that it was on par with the amount of detail for the kind of book that it is. Like there are different levels in romance, and usually, like the oversized chunky paperback kind of like bright covered book like this is not the kind that's going to have like the real steamy sex scenes. I feel like that's kind of code. Like you can tell
Wouldn't
a
that have been a
lot.
twist if it was,
It
though?
would have, yeah. I mean, I just think you can tell a lot from the cover. This to me, I guess it was the level that I expected, but it was surprising to me just because like I hadn't read a scene like that between two men before. So
There's
yeah,
something that I want to say, and it's, first of all, I'm curious as to how the author researched,
hmm
because there were certain things, and I understand that this author identifies as queer and
hmm
non-binary and is very open to all sorts of I don't know, probably different types of relationships.
Okay.
But I was kind of thinking, like, I just felt like she needed to talk to her gay best friend for this one, because I just feel like it could have been messier, it could have been clunkier, it could have been. I also felt like, and this is maybe a little bit of a judgment, but Prince Henry, first of all, is the one that does not grapple with the sexuality. He's very clear that he is gay.
Yeah.
And he has really not that many qualms with it. And he's a fabulous dresser, and I feel like he just really dresses the part.
Yeah.
Like, a little bit like clean cut, stereotypical, like Ken doll gay man. He's never not wearing boxers.
Mm.
And I was like, who told her that men are wearing boxers? That gay men are wearing boxers. You think of boxers, think of those like plaid shorts,
you do. Yeah.
At least say boxer briefs or briefs.
Yeah.
Like there's not a gay man and not a gay prince that's wearing boxers.
Okay.
So that was a bit shocking to me. That being said, I'm not poo-pooing it all, because I really did feel kind of excited during some of it. So I don't know. I was just surprised that it wasn't a little bit more hardcore. I don't know.
And I think I felt the same way about who is this for? I mean, that was a question that I was asking myself like over and over again. And, the consensus, at least around the library, for those of us who read it, because a few staff members read it leading up to it, was, we do feel like it is kind of geared towards like the young, like the teen girl crowd, I mean, that seems like that. The more obvious, because it always to me had a little bit of like the stink of fanfic, you know what I mean, where it's like what if Prince Henry, or what if Prince Harry, like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I do wonder, like, was it big amongst gay audiences too, or like were gay guys reading this in 2019? I feel like it was a fun summer gay novel. I can't say it, like you said, it was very well reviewed, very popular. So I can only imagine that a lot of gay identifying men or women or non-binary read it. And so I am a bit surprised tonally too about like, maybe, this author was just taking a shot in the dark and being like, I'm just going to kind of like blanket fanfic it, and people can kind of get what they want out of it. I was not disappointed, like I said, about the sex scenes. I was just surprised, and I still enjoyed it. Like I think I was expecting something more, but I still enjoyed kind of where it was going. Because it's also that thing where it's kind of like you got to use your imagination a little bit, and I felt like it offered that, because it was a little bit it was a little bit unclear, nondescript at times. It's like you kind of got to make up your own assumptions. So I don't know.
I guess what I thought was sort of, because like, I mean, I buy all the books for our library, like that's a big part of my job, making sure, we have a diverse collection and getting things. And, it is harder than you would think, even now, to find gay fiction, to find, books that are showing, a variety of things, and for a broader audience. And so the fact that this one like exists and did sort of have, I don't know what you want, I'd like have sort of a crossover appeal, was kind of noteworthy, and it probably shouldn't be, but I still think that's where the publishing world is in a lot of ways. I don't know. I mean, do you have a different take on that? I mean, do you see?
I mean, as far as representation
in fiction?
Yeah, I think that that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I feel like that that there's not a gay story that I can even think off the top of my head that's
Right.
been very popular in the past few years. I definitely think that, yeah, that's probably why this was so well received, is because I feel like people are, I feel like we're in a time and a movement where people are, you know, a little bit more open about sexuality and fluidity and all that. And so I think that with the appealing kind of the appealing storyline of the prince
Yeah.
and the princes, I'll say, from either side, I think that was, it was a little bit commercial, but it was really it was really, I think that was a good call on this author to pull from something that everybody can hang on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like it's a pretty interesting twist on a lot of these stories that we've heard.
Yeah.
But no, I do feel like there's probably a lack of representation in queer literature, for
Yeah.
sure, mainstream.
I felt like, and I don't know, I'm talking about strictly just from a like choosing books and trying to make sure we have a collection that's representative of our community. I felt like it was at least an encouraging step that there could be, you know, a bad romance novel about two men that got the attention that bad romance novels about men and women get all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I think that's great.
you know, I still think that is progress, and maybe not as much as you'd want, but it's something, you know, the fact that this book's got beyond what they often do.
I was really surprised, not surprised. I mean, I was thrilled, but when you mentioned that we wanted to do this and you wanted to do a Pride month, do you do a Pride book every year? Is this the first time you've kind of like decided to pull one out? And
We do. I mean, every year I've been there, we've done displays and things. It's as far as
but
specifically.
you display the gays,
Yeah, we bring them out and
put them out.
we
Here they are.
We always do displays and things. But to answer your question, I have not specifically done like a Pride Month book club.
Cool. No, I was like, I thought that was a really good idea, and this book came at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are finally listening to us.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of jumped to wrap. What should we quickly just like wrap up where this book goes?
Yeah.
So I feel like I have a lot of complaints just about it, like as a book, but here's one of them. I feel like one, you're kind of set up to have this sort of odd couple vibe because you have, you know, the upper crusty Prince of England, and you have like a politician's son from Texas, pew pew, you know, and so you kind of expect that he's gonna be all like, well, I like salad bars, you know what I mean? but like you don't really get that, and like once you get past the initial like, oh, we're different, to me they're written very similarly.
They are, yeah, and they're almost annoyingly similar.
Yes,
I'd say
like
it's irritating.
The dialogue could almost be interchangeable, and they are both like equally in the relationship,
Right.
which
Yeah,
I think is like,
there's one moment where it falters and you're like, oh, this is it. Like we were waiting for this moment. And Henry, it's very strange because they go to the Alex's family home in Austin.
which again,
and
how did that ever happen with the Prince of England? But we'll forget that.
you can make it all over this country. I can't even get out of Michigan. And they have a moment in the water. It's very romantic, and Henry just can't do it. He can't do it.
Yeah.
And he just basically leaves overnight and is gone. So then what does Alex do? He goes a little crazy and he flies over there. And Henry's like, hey, oh, hey, how are you? Yeah, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And they're just back together. It's very
it.
strange.
That's
Like
all
there's
there
really
is.
not a lot of conflict. They're both really in it the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and I think like I can't help but analyze it like structurally, and I think having this be a real like wake up call for Alex, you know, like, oh, I am bisexual, having that be a part of the book, but never having that come back around where he sort of questions that either. Like I kind of thought maybe that was going to happen, that he was at least going to be uncomfortable with it and suddenly be like, wait, maybe I'm not. But we didn't get that either. Like there was just never really.
That's in Red, White, and Princess.
Oh, okay.
When he meets the princess of Narnia. I don't know.
Did you think that was coming though? Did you think he was gonna like second guess himself?
I thought it was interesting. What I would have liked to see maybe, and there's definitely a move, not a movement, but more recognition in the bi community lately of people wanting to celebrate that and to be a little bit more. There's definitely a stigma in the gay world when you come out. You first come out as bisexual, and then you finally come out as gay.
Okay.
And there's always that expectation that the bisexual person's going to eventually realize they're gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's another point that maybe the author didn't want to make, to have to go into the bisexuality of it and to be like, oh yes, I'm bisexual, I love this man, but I also love this woman. I don't think that she wanted to I don't think that they wanted to go into that necessarily with the conflict of what they're interested in. So I think that sure, Alex is bisexual and Alex is in love with a man now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying? You think that it would make a more interesting structure if Alex had more of a struggle with what gender he was interested in?
No. I don't think that he needed to genuinely have that struggle, but I feel like character-wise, if this is a new thing that he's doing, I feel like he would at least, like as a character, maybe he would deny that himself. You know what I mean? Not that he would actually be like, wait a minute, no, I don't, but he might sort of convince himself of that for a minute.
Yeah, because I really can't hang on what the conflict is,
aside
from the election.
Yeah.
Aside from the election and aside from the Queen of England, who is their biggest foil.
Yes, of course.
Always.
Yeah. I think that could have been a layer where he, won't be honest about himself or something. But like that was never a part of it. So it just sort of lacked any kind of tension at all. I think there are different ways that you could have done that. I think Henry could have been like, look, I've got this whole thing. I can't just go out there and do whatever I want, and kind of pull back that way. There's many things they could have done, but instead it was just sort of like, once it happened, they were just 100% in to the end, besides that one like 5-minute pause,
Yeah, I definitely felt like, I don't know that I was really rooting for Alex, because I don't know if he was fleshed out enough for me, or if his personality type was just, I felt like they were playing on the trope of the, you said you'd like a little bit more Odd Couple, but I did feel like they were kind of playing Alex as the ambitious yet kind of sloppy American, and Henry as the pulled up. There were glimpses of that. I think maybe I didn't get too deep into the detail and the nitty gritty like you do, but I felt like they were touching on those points, so maybe they could have just dove deeper. I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, I think seeing Henry's side of things fleshed out a little bit more would have helped as well, and we just didn't really get that. He was a very one-dimensional character.
Yes, I agree. I think they talk about his big heart a lot, so we know that he feels a lot.
But they talk about it, they don't show it.
Yeah,
I don't think.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. And he did seem like a cardboard cutout.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how he feels. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I guess I think there was kind of a laziness there to not do a little bit more character work within that. But yeah, so we have the hiccup where he doesn't know if Henry kind of pulls away, but then like suddenly they're right back together. And then it pretty quickly transitions into like they're just going to go public with it and find a way to be together, right?
It's leaked by...
You're right.
Yeah. So they're not ready. They're ready to tell their mothers.
Yeah.
Which goes fine. The Queen obviously has a big issue with it.
Yeah.
And then on the way to telling the Queen, it leaks that they were seen kissing in the back of a car during one of their makeup moments in England.
Yeah.
So there's a picture of them that gets leaked, and then Henry's on his way to England to go meet the Queen, and that's where we are. So when they land, there's this big support around the globe for them, and
I was surprised by that. I thought that was a nice turn. You
were surprised by the world?
I was.
Surprised you?
Yeah. Aww. I don't often find the world to be a hopeful place, so that was.
You were really rooting for the world.
Yeah. Don't the emails get leaked at some point? Isn't that part of it?
Yeah, that comes after the meeting with the Queen.
Okay,
when they go back to headquarters, and then we find out that they think that the opposing candidate for Ellen, Claremont Diaz, is the one that leaked it, the Richards campaign.
Yes. Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, why? Like, the emails got leaked? What is this, like 2003? Like, I thought it was such a lame plot point. But, like, why are you emailing? I don't know.
And that is part of it, because then they go from texting to emailing because Henry's a fabulous writer, supposedly.
Yeah, they need that. They need that email. So, is emailing big in the gay community? Is that why?
It's all we do.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
So she did do some research. That's
There's
good.
a lot of cues. Yeah, you can do,
That's good. Yep.
You make those old school emojis like the heart with
Uh-huh.
like the parentheses and the three.
Uh-huh.
Like that's
Okay.
very gay.
Okay. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
you can make a rainbow out of
Mhm.
a lot of different little symbols on your screen too. So there's just a lot of code.
It's all making sense to me now. Yeah, it is.
You have an email?
So yeah, sure. I think this is the part. Like once it's kind of like they've made the decision and it's out in the open, this sort of like clandestine political animals section here at the tail end, I was kind of like ready to be done.
That's when we could have cut
Yeah,
forward.
that's
to
when
the
I
end.
kind of thought like, okay. Were you still in
really-
it, or was that just me?
I think you're right. They dragged out that election. That
Yeah.
the whole night they dragged it out. Yeah, I mean, it was just like a will she, won't she? And I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing that it was all writing on is Alex was thinking, is it going to be because I came out? Is it going to be, did I ruin this election? And it turns out that, so when Ellen was first elected, the first time, they did not win the state of Texas, their home state.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's all laying on, will Texas go blue? And if if Texas goes blue, they took the election.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it goes blue.
There it happens.
And
Yeah.
she gets reelected for another term. And Henry shows up at the last minute to arrive on stage with the family.
Yes.
He's very much accepted at that point.
Yeah. I still don't fully understand how that's going to work logistically. That's the other thing too. I'm like, but you're still the Prince of England.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know he's going to buy a brownstone in Brooklyn, but is a brownstone in Brooklyn ever going to fix anyone's problems?
Right. I mean, maybe it might.
Honestly, it could fix a few of mine.
Yeah.
But that's another story for another podcast.
So, I mean, more or less, that's the story. I mean,
Right.
it's sort of an idyllic ending where they're together and everyone accepts it, and somehow they make their like transatlantic love story where they're both like,
That's for part 2.
I guess, yeah.
That's
Red,
for
white, and royal baby.
Royal baby blue. We'll see. That'll be interesting when they adopt. Like,
Yeah.
where are they going to adopt from? Which country?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
like dual citizenship?
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't-
now you're kind of making me want to read that book.
Wah.
All right, so I mean, we kind of got into it in the middle there. Obviously, there are weaknesses to the book. I think it's pretty standard paperback romance. I didn't hate it. I don't know. What did you think?
I didn't hate it either. And when I said I was surprised at the beginning of this, I was surprised how much I felt during it.
Oh.
I felt like butterflies, and I felt like little romance giggles. I kind of went back to that, I don't know, that young flirtatious. I like reading stories about like first love and stuff, and it just brings back very like fun feelings and
Yeah.
stuff. So I while I wasn't necessarily in love with the characters, and I thought it was kind of that privileged, who cares sort of like
Yeah.
rich people problems. I was like, I get what it is. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
I'm in it, and I was surprised there wasn't any more. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting like a novel, like a sexy novel or whatever. I was expecting more encounters, more sexual encounters. There really weren't much after Wimbledon.
No, it's like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bunch back to back, and
that's a true gay relationship. Right off the bat, and then it just dwindles as soon
and
as
then
you
it's
fall in
over.
love.
And then
Yeah.
the next thing you know, you're on the stage with the President of the United States, and everybody loves you.
Who's taking
So
an appearance by the Queen.
pretty
for the
standard.
Queen, and it's all over.
Yeah.
I definitely was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I was expecting that it would be funnier. Like in a lot of ways, it felt like a very old-fashioned kind of story to me. Like it,
like
no-
Princess Diaries, old fashioned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way, obviously, the thing that breaks that is that it's about the gay characters. But like, I don't know. I feel like the overall plot and just the writing in general to me didn't feel particularly like clever or fresh, and that disappointed me a little bit. I thought it was going to be like a very hip kind of book, and I don't think that it was.
Yeah, I mean, if I could follow it really well, then it wasn't that deep.
Would you read more by the author? She's got a new one out that already has a lot of buzz.
So after the ebook, because I read it on my Nook, it goes into the next story, which takes place in Brooklyn, and it involves a non-binary character as a trans character. So I'm interested in hearing more from that angle of young America.
Yeah.
But it takes place in Brooklyn too. I wasn't hanging on every word. I think I don't know. I think I can tell you right now I'm not going to read this book, but but I do think it's cool what this author is doing and bringing the marginalized communities to the forefront. And
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, I didn't realize that this book was so acclaimed. So I'm excited for what that means for representation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely. Like I said, I think it's a nice bit of progress, and the fact that like the next book has already got so much buzz, I think is a cool thing. Can I ask you a potentially awkward question that you can feel free to not answer if you don't want to? But
Cut
you
this
know,
out.
no, I think about sometimes how like for me, it's pretty easy because most movies and TV shows and songs and books are like designed for me. It's like boy meets girl kind of stuff, and that's something that like I'm sure I've taken for granted, for decades now. And a book like this comes along and it's noteworthy, where like it wouldn't be if it was just like an old white dude and a nice little white lady. That wouldn't be noteworthy at all. So the fact that this one is, I think, really says something. And so I just wonder, like, how does your experience differ? Like, is that something that I just imagine that must be hard?
Well, are you outing me right now? A live
Yes, this is the
podcast.
time. Your parents are here. Could you
Yes,
guys come right in?
it's true. Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Ambush.
Oh, no, we really don't have to. I can cut that right out if you don't want to talk about it.
Oh my God, no. Are you
Okay.
kidding? You have to remember, like, we kind of grew up in very similar, we're very like same generation. We grew up in basically neighboring towns in the same area.
Yeah.
We kind of were raised with similar ideals and stuff. So I was raised with the same culture that you were, and like the boy meets girl storyline and stuff. So I think you just learn to like accept it. And I don't know anything else. I didn't feel like, as a queer youth growing up, feeling like I wasn't represented. I didn't see it that way. I just saw this is the way it is. So it's very interesting to see, so like you said, so much progress and so much movement over all forms of media. So now I'm obviously so fully on board for it. I think this can do nothing but help young queer people who are experiencing any kind of struggles, coming out and grappling with who they are. I think that I don't feel at all like jealous that I didn't have something like this growing up. I feel only excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I missed out. I had theater and an outlet, thank goodness, that accepted me and welcomed me and everything. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, I feel like representation matters, and I feel like telling different queer stories matters, because like I said before, we have the tropes, we have the struggles coming out, we have certain identifying sexualities, and I feel like it'll be interesting to hear. I also want to hear it coming from queer people's perspectives too. Like, I don't know, that there's a bit of a, like I said, I might have maybe had a little bit of an issue reading this author's book not being, and I know that we should be able to like look beyond that, but I would have liked to hear this coming from a gay man's perspective. So that might be one issue that I have deep down, but I can look past it. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel like we're heading the right direction, and
Yeah.
I feel very I feel very hopeful about everything for the next generations.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, that's good. And I'm sorry I made you read a 450-page book.
It was 334 on my ebook, so I
Okay.
think they left some stuff out.
That's a little easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read the extended uncut version.
I got red, white, uncut. I got the red, white, and blue junior version.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's why it was so watered
Oh,
down.
could be. Yeah, it could be. So how many stars? How many stars would you give this book if you were going to rate it?
How many stars do we have
Out of 5.
Out of 5? Oh boy. I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to say 3.
Okay. That's what I did too. That's where I
Yeah.
put it too. How does it rate with that Christmas ghost book you read a few years back, where there was a bear in the basement?
With the bear. Who was the Waddell?
Yeah, the Wydells. Yep.
The Waddells.
Yeah.
How does it compare? I still picture like I think something when I read that book, I pictured kind of like a cartoon haze, like you said, a little bit one dimensional or two dimensional rather.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of pictured the same cartoon haze over this one, so that like tonally, I felt like they were very similar.
Okay.
Just with a lot more expletives in this one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was less swearing in the bear book.
I would say so. All right.
But it's politics, man.
I know.
Everybody swears in politics.
It's a dirty business.
I did read that the author, remind me the author's name. I keep saying the author. Casey McQuiston was really obsessed with Veep at the time, the HBO series with Julia Dreyfus.
Right.
And I feel like that's where a lot of like the cussing and stuff came from, because that's all like every other sentence has like 5 swear words. Did you watch that series?
Oh yeah, I loved Veep.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I love
one of the great endings, I feel like, in a show. So hard to stick a landing on a show like that, and I felt like they just nailed it.
Oh yeah, and Julia Dreyfus is just like a beast.
She is. I mean, she's amazing. When you think of like her big things, Seinfeld, New Adventures of Old Christine, Veep, Saturday Night Live, it's like all of those things are just so drastically different, and yet she's just like perfect in all of them.
So much energy.
So impressive.
Takes so much energy.
Yeah. Should we do a Veep rewatch podcast? Is that is that where this is leaning?
Only if I can swear though.
Okay. Yep, that'd be fine. All right. Well, the book, again, is Red, White, and Royal Blue. We do have it right here at the David A. Howe Public Library. And we'll have the next book when it comes out. So you can keep an eye out for that as well. Thanks to my old friend, Beau Hutchings, for reading the book and chatting with me about it. Beau, thanks.
Hey, anytime, girl.
Next time in the feed, in an off week, we're going to have a special audio drama that kicks off the summer reading program. And then after that, Kate is back, and we're talking about the Warrior books. As a kid, did you ever read these Warrior Cat books? They were huge.
Warrior Cat books?
Yes, they're like cats.
You love a cat book.
They're cats, and they're intense. They're really intense. You'd know. If you read them, you'd know. They'd scare the life out of you.
I wanted to show you one thing before we go.
Oh, sure.
My friend Prescott, who read the book, sent me a picture of this.
Wow.
So there's another book that he's going to read. What does it say?
Playing the Palace? Paul Rudnick.
Do you know Paul Rudnick?
No, I don't. I know Paul Rudd.
And that's what I thought. I was like, because it kind of looks like Paul Rudd. So it looks like the exact same story.
Very similar premise. Playing the Palace. So if you liked this, why not try Playing the Palace? Well, always good to talk to you, buddy.
You too. So good to see you. Happy Pride.
All right. So long, everybody.
Bye.